at the time when they were like defaming me, somebody was like, you should create one in a video, be video and post on social, one of those hostage
Yeah,
videos where
yeah.
it's like, I am not guilty. I was like,
Right.
I'm
No,
not
no, no,
doing
no.
this. I'm just going to be quiet. And that's kind of my way. Like, I'll just get quiet. So this is my first time, as you
And
know,
I thank you. This is the
talking.
first time she's
Yeah,
talking
I've
about it.
never talked about it publicly. I stayed quiet. They were attacking me. They were, lying on me. Like, it was really bad. And I just stayed quiet.
She's a visionary founder of Captivate Production, a top entertainment marketing professional with 2 Emmy nominations. With over 20 years of experience, she has produced some of the industry's most impactful events and campaigns for brands such as Sundance, Apple Music, BET, Google, and MTV. She earned her Emmy nomination for Chicago Urban League's award-winning lifestyle program for producing ad color Apollo featuring Wyclef Jean. Known for creating iconic moments, including secret shows for Prince and Essence Festival milestones, she's continued to redefine entertainment and strategic insight and bold storytelling. Welcome, Yvonne McNair.
Hey.
So glad you're here. We've spoke briefly,
And it did.
and this is actually our first time meeting in person, so I'm excited to see.
I know. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. So let's get into it. So how did you get started?
I actually got started in PR. So I was doing PR for hip hop artists and back in the 90s. And I quickly knew that that wasn't for me. It was like setting up these interviews and I can kind of, have a little OCD and people not being on time and, or canceling last minute. I was like, this is not for me. But I always had a love for music. So I wanted to stay in the music industry. So I actually started, producing concerts. Like I started as a PA and just like learning. And so concerts were really like my first productions. And still, music is still my first love. So many of my events, still have music as part of it.
I have to hand it to you because you talk about people not being on time and all that. And it's notorious for like talent, and that's why I can't do that. It makes me crazy.
It makes me crazy.
But you still do it.
I still do it. I still do it just because I love what I do. Right. But it does make me crazy.
It makes me crazy. I always say I can count when doing events. I can always count on other things, but when it comes to people and all those things that just
people are the hardest.
Right, and they just decide I'm not showing up. I've had people just talents just like go home. He was like, You took too long. I was like, where is he? Where is he?
Yes.
I heard about that for a long time. So what influenced you? I know you had a mentor early on.
I did. I had a mentor. Well, first my mom would say, in New Orleans, wrestling was really big. And as a child, my grandparents would take me to the Superdome and we would watch wrestling. And my mom always said that I was very enamored by, the lights, the production. I didn't like the wrestling, but I was like, I love to go to the Superdome. And so I think that started me having a passion of being creative, those types of experiences and, being exposed to that. But what influences me the most, is I have had some great mentors. Esther Gordy, if you don't know, who's Berry Gordy's sister, took me under her wing very early on when I was like a late teenager and used to come to my home and tell me stories about Motown and working with different artists. And I feel that a lot of the stuff that I use today in terms of marketing and working artists came from those experiences with her. And so she mentored me. I was in Detroit at the time and, they put me on the cover of Crane's magazine as a young woman saying how I was going to, influence the music industry. And so, so Esther Gordy was, one of my biggest influences in my career.
What a great mentor. Now you do a lot of events for Black culture. Like it's changed through the years. I mean, how do you think it's evolved between when you started and to now?
Well, music is definitely different. And I actually still try and do what I love. I love old school hip hop because that's where I started. People are always surprised that I love hip hop so much that I do. But I still try and work with those types of artists. It's better for brands, actually. It's better for insurance. Music has definitely changed. So the way I work with artists is very different. I do try and infuse some of the old and some of the new. So that we are, across demographic audiences because brands do want to attract to younger audiences as well.
I think brands seem more open to, wider range of music than they
Yes,
used to back
absolutely.
in the
Absolutely,
day.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Now they're embracing a lot more. It makes
Mhm,
your life hopefully a little easier.
mhm.
Is there like a project, a favorite project of yours?
I have so many favorite projects. You didn't mention Prince, which people always mention
Yeah.
Prince in my bio, but
Because I didn't want to date anything too
no,
much. I
no,
wanted
no.
to
It's I mean I'm very young still, so I'm gonna say that for no dating. But I did do a secret show for Prince at the City Winery, and this is when the
Mhm.
City Winery just opened. They were on Varick Street, not where they are now. And we decided to do like this pop up residency, and this one show, the final show that we did. And Prince was very much on energy. We knew he was going to perform, but he could always not show and change his mind based on the energy. But he came and he performed to 6:52 a.m. And, if you were there, you were there. It was like named as one of like New York's biggest
Yeah, I
moments.
remember it. Yeah.
People were like actually leaving the show to go to work. And we were seeing people like jogging, past City Winery, like what's going
What's going
on, and
on?
Prince
Yeah.
is still performing. But what I loved about it is that, it was a secret show. So we didn't announce it until like, I want to say it was like 9 or 10 p.m. And I put it on my Twitter, and I've deleted it now, but I think I only had like 800 followers, but a lot of people knew me from working with
Yeah.
Prince. And within 20 minutes, it was like lines
Yeah.
down the block. And, it was just, mayhem out there, like people trying to get into this show.
Yeah.
And the capacity was like 500. And, he said it was one of his favorite shows, an intimate show where, we had pop up people like CeeLo and
Just show up.
Allison. It was an amazing experience. So that is one of my favorites. And it was one of my favorites also because after he passed away, although people weren't supposed to be recording, there were so
Right.
many,
There's some, right.
yeah, there were so many clips where, on social media. And for me too, I have a way of just moving to the next and not really reflecting.
We
And
all
so
have
it
that.
made me really reflect on like, this was like a historic
Right.
moment in time that you produced, and it's going to live with people forever. And so that was like one of my favorite.
I remember
favorite
hearing
things.
about it. My wife's like, "How come we didn't know about it?" I said,
And
"Well, I
well,
guess
it
we
was a
were not
secret.
on that list.
You were not
We were
following me on
not
Twitter
when it was Twitter."
when it was Twitter.
So now we're going to get into another. You've produced a lot of events. Now
Okay.
there's one. We're not going to say the name,
Mhm.
but it happened in 2023, and it very publicly was canceled.
Mhm.
And very like the day was about to go. That's actually
We
the
were.
day was
It was the day we were ready to start,
right. It was
and
that morning, right?
it was that morning. We had received a call from the city. It was supposed to start on Friday. We received a call from the city on Wednesday where they shared concerns about the heat.
Right, and it was hot. I
It
was
was
there.
it was the
hot.
hottest weekend of the
Right.
summer, and it's been the hottest weekend of the summer since then. Like it has not been,
Really?
yeah, on record.
And it was I remember it's asphalt
Yeah.
and Randall's Island's Randall's Island, right?
Yes,
And it was the heat was just coming off
Yeah.
the asphalt.
Yeah.
So but it was like you were in the moment and you're like,
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it's different from because there, other events didn't cancel. They were like, well, there was one
Exactly.
but this is different because it's an open field.
Right.
There's no shelter. There's no shading. There's there's no way to really protect anyone. And it was like, okay, well, you can bring in air conditioners and, water
Right
stations
outside.
and all that, but it just really wasn't
Mhm.
one financially to try and transform this to
Right.
make it like it's an indoor space when it's not. So they expressed concerns on the Wednesday before. And,
Okay.
they were just like, we might have to start later. We might have to move doors to later. And then the next day it was supposed to rain. And so it was a very difficult call. In hindsight, I think it was really a blessing that it canceled because of all of the problems and challenges it had. So yeah, it was very difficult. I remember like waking up, sending the email, crying, like, yeah,
I can
cancel it.
imagine.
Yeah, it was very, very hard.
Like I was there and
It was so hard.
I was like, I mean, it's interesting to say that it was the hottest day of the year. I mean, if we've all been in New Orleans and it's
Yeah.
hot over
Yes,
there all the time.
yes,
I'm like, it'll cool down,
Yeah. Mhm.
And you already it was done. The event was done. It was ready to go.
It was
Stages
ready to
were-
go. It
Everything
looked
was up.
amazing.
Exactly.
And, and because it was so hard to get there, like, I was just like, we're here. Like, I was so proud
Right,
of,
they
like,
got it.
seeing it, seeing the stage and knowing what was to come. So it's just really bittersweet. To do that.
We'll get into the idea. There were other things going on
There were a lot
behind
of
the
things
scenes.
going
But
on.
what was the original vision for the event?
The original vision for the event was to do something positive for the Harlem community.
Mhm.
It was to bring arts, music, culture. There are not a lot of venues in Harlem, and people don't even realize that Randall's Island is considered East Harlem.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do y'all know that?
It's considered East Harlem, which we found out as we were working with the city because I never thought that.
That was its own little
Um,
world over there.
no. And so, and it's so close where you can walk
Yeah,
down
you can.
125th. So, we wanted to bring, businesses. We wanted to bring people to Harlem. We just wanted to showcase Harlem.
Yeah.
And that was the vision for it, to create this 3-day event, with music and arts and culture, to the community.
Okay. So now there were, like you said, there were other issues, and you said it was a blessing that it actually got canceled.
Mhm.
Looking back, I mean, what were sort of the early warning signs of other things brewing?
Some of the early signs were that, I had partnered with individuals that I did not know.
Okay.
And sometimes things look really good on paper. And, I just did like the little Google and I was like, oh, everything looks really great. And sometimes you got to just like start asking questions and talk to people.
Are you talking like Google of the
Yeah,
individual?
Google and of the individuals. Like I read bios, and sometimes, things aren't what they seem. And so I went with that. I had also, people knew I was, producing Essence Festival, like I
Right.
was doing the main stage, and I, created the After Dark series, and, really worked very hard from 2014 when I brought Prince to Essence Festival to 2020. I did the virtual festival. And I worked really closely, with former leadership. But when it was acquired, I never heard from them. They just, moved on. And, that was hard for me,
Dang.
because I had really brought tremendous talent.
Yeah, you
My last lineup that I hadn't announced before COVID, because I did the virtual, but I had announced Janet, Bruno Mars, and we were about to
Wow,
announce.
I didn't even know
Yeah, I
that.
had
And
booked
I was
them.
working on it. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I have. We had announced Janet and Bruno, and then we were going to announce on March 14th. We were going to announce New Edition, and that was going to be their first time coming back together. So I was like, I'm killing
Yeah,
it. Like,
yeah,
this
yeah,
is my
yeah.
best lineup. And so then, we know the world crashed for COVID.
Yeah.
And so then we did the virtual festival, but then that was the end of the road for me because, there was
For
new
all of us,
leadership.
yeah.
Yeah, there was new leadership. And so, coming off of that, I love festivals. As
Yeah.
I said, my whole life I've done concerts. So I wanted to do something differently. The idea came to me to partner with these individuals. So I think my sadness, if you will, over not moving forward with Essence after I had worked so hard on it, I think that kind of also made me not,
Sure.
do
You
the
just
due
want-
diligence that I should
Gotcha.
have done. And so I partnered with two individuals who this is not their business. They don't work in live events. They
That's
don't,
huge.
right. They don't work in music. But I thought we all brought something different to the table. And so I moved forward, but I saw early on, that I was doing the heavy lift, but I
Mhm.
still said it's going to balance out. But what happened, which really was the red flag for me, and this was in January, is that, there were issues with accounting. And when I say that, I mean that, people started paying themselves when we were
Interesting.
not in a position to pay ourselves.
Right.
And so that was really kind of the turning point.
So let me understand. So the event was your idea.
No, the event was not mine,
Oh, okay.
actually. They brought the idea to me because of knowing my work.
Okay,
So-
so it was this particular group.
Yeah, the other
group came to you, and they knew you could do it,
They
which
knew
you
that
can.
I could
Right.
produce it.
Okay, so and then but it was the first time working with
It was
them.
their first time working with them.
Interesting. Okay.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
It's a lot to be said about the history of working with people.
Absolutely. I mean, I made some, terrible mistakes there, and again, I was just like, when I look back, I'm like, I wanted to move on to something else, and I was like, well, I had all the success here. I know that I can do this, and so yeah, early January was, attorneys started getting involved,
Yeah.
and it became a battle because I was like, and I don't want to say this, like I have my MBA. Like
Yeah.
I know
I
business.
didn't put that in your intro, but
Yeah,
yes,
but
I did know. I forgot.
yeah, and I actually have 3 degrees, and I'm saying that to say that, like, I'm an educated
Yeah.
person, but I still made mistakes.
Sometimes all of us. Yeah.
And, it became a battle, and it became clear that this would not move past this year. We had
Oh,
already
after, even if it didn't get
yeah,
canceled.
even if it didn't get canceled, I had determined that I was going to move on from him. And, our attorneys were involved in everything, and that was determination. Like, I was basically like, "I'm out. I'm gonna
Mm,
see this through," because I had secured a lot of sponsorship,
yeah.
and then I would move on. Um, but it just the battle was the battle.
Right.
And,
Right.
when we were set to announce, I was in the Goldman Sachs program, and the day I was, like, graduating from the program, I got an attorney letter where it was, like, a cease and desist on, like, we can't announce. And
Can't
so
announce
the talent.
the talent. Okay. This was
And
prior to the event.
this is prior to the event.
Oh.
So we were about to announce the talent in April, and we couldn't announce the talent. And that's, if you don't know business, and if you don't
Mhm.
know how this works,
That's how you sell tickets.
yeah, that's how you sell tickets.
Right.
That's how you sell tickets, one. And when you got to get ahead of other events,
Yeah.
because then people start
It's
making
summertime. Yeah.
it's summertime, and it's also Hip Hop 50.
Right.
So there's a lot of competing events. So if you don't get ahead of it, then people start buying
Yeah.
tickets for other
Exactly.
things.
There's only so much to go
There's
around.
always so much to go. So that it was like a whole month of a battle to even get it announced. And so we lost a lot of time. And so then there were some other major events that were announced in that time.
Sure. It's big
Yes,
festival season.
that's
Yeah.
a big
After
deal.
COVID, it's what, 2023. The
is.
world's trying to get back
The
together, and
world's
everybody's
trying
like ready to go.
Everybody's ready to go.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
millions of events. So that really just like, I mean, that's like killing your business,
Sure.
honestly. So I was like, you can battle, but battle, like, you at least want the project to
Yeah.
win. And so we were just so we're behind. I'm trying to like catch up. I also got poor legal advice at the time, had to change attorneys because the attorney, I said I wanted to end it there. And they were like, if you end now, you're going to get all these lawsuits
Before the event.
before the event. And so that's why I kept pushing forward. But
Right.
I wanted to be done in
Mhm.
May.
Right.
But because of the sponsors that were
Yeah, you had
attached,
definitely sponsors attached.
but interestingly, after it did cancel because of the weather, none of the sponsors sued. It was all the vendors.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have had those vendors coming after me had I.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I had to change attorneys.
Gotcha now.
Yeah. So it was
So-
very public. It canceled, and my character was defamed, which
Yeah.
is very, very difficult because I've worked so hard. I pride myself on working with integrity.
Right.
Everyone knows I'm very direct. I'm very honest, and so, they defamed my character publicly. So now I have these vendors coming after me because I'm the only person they know. And now, my character is being defamed as
Yeah,
well.
I was one of them.
Yeah, I know.
I'll be honest. I
I
was
know.
one of them.
You
I was,
were.
but I was like, maybe she's not a.
I'm not a bad person.
It was very public.
It was very public.
It was, and you were the face.
I was.
And
was.
you look at your agreement, it's like, well, you're the only one signed everything.
Exactly.
So, and I could see other vendors like, well, what are we going to do? We're out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's money's,
and
money, whatever.
Right. And I want to say, shoot, I had put so much of my own personal
Sure.
money in it. So I
Sure.
lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, I lost everything. And so, it was, at the time when they were like defaming me, somebody was like, you should create one in a video and post on social, one of those hostage videos where
yeah.
it's like, I am not guilty. I was like,
Right.
I'm
No,
not
no,
doing
no.
this. I'm just going to be quiet. And that's kind of my way. Like, I'll just get quiet. So this is my first time, as you know.
And I thank you. This is the
talking
first time she's talking about
I've
it.
never talked about it publicly. I stayed quiet. They were attacking me. They were, lying on me. Like, it was really bad. And I just stayed quiet.
Yeah.
And I never said it and never said anything. And I was just like, the tides will turn. My long reputation, I've never had an issue in my entire career. I've, helped people come back, in their careers. So I was just like, tide has to turn. And so I've never said a word. I've never said anything on social media. I've never said anything. I don't even walk around talking about it. I never say their names. I
love it.
I just moved on.
No, I
moved
appreciate
on.
that, and I thank you for coming because I reached out to you because I
Mm-hmm.
saw we had a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they
So
were
you're
working.
like,
It's
maybe
like,
she's
well,
not
maybe she's
bad.
not so bad because I like them. I was like, should I? I sent an email. I was like, is she going to answer? I don't know. And you responded very
Right,
quickly. And
yeah,
we started
responded.
chatting.
Yeah,
It's like, well,
responded.
maybe, I mean, there's a story.
Yeah.
There's just something to say. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was very public. So
Yeah, it was really public.
is there anything like, because I think the public has this, and I want to say, I don't know what the public, but the people who read and who don't know, is there something that they should know
Yeah.
that was not true?
Well, everything.
Everything.
So, but let me say this, and I want to say this to your credit, Mark, because you did reach out to me, and anybody who had reached out to me, any vendor, I responded, and and I tried to
did.
be as honest and transparent. I knew that it was a terrible situation. They lost money. I lost money. I knew it was a bad situation, but I just tried to be honest along the way.
You did.
And so when you reached out to me, and then when we actually talked, I don't even know why, I started just like telling you everything, but I just appreciated that you weren't one that like came after me to attack me, because some of the vendors were saying horrible things to me. I mean, the tears I cried. I was just like, I cannot believe I've been in this business 20 years and there's never been any negativity around me or my brand. And it's like the things that people were saying. But when you talked to me, I mean, you were very respectful and understanding. And that's why I started sharing my story. And then I was like, yeah, I'll do this
Well,
podcast.
I said, well, let's talk about it.
I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, time has passed.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, there's a lot for a listener or people in our
people
profession
to learn from it.
Yeah,
I want people to learn from it.
Like, what do you think, if we were to help event professionals, clients, sponsors, vendors and such, what could you learn from the experience about trust, transparency, team structure? Tell me something that you think a couple of things that somebody can learn from.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, doing your due diligence. Again, sometimes things appear a certain way on social media. Things appear a certain way in bios and resumes, and you have to do some due diligence. Is it real?
Right.
That's one. I mean, that's the thing about social media now. Somebody pops up every day like, I'm this, I'm that.
Everything's fabulous, right?
Yeah, and they don't have any experience, but they can post pictures, and it makes it look like. So doing your due diligence, and you can't partner with people who are equal. Like everyone really has to bring something to the table. And, that was not the case. I think that when you're taking on such a major project like this, you cannot have people that can't carry their weight.
Right.
And this was a major.
It was major.
It was a major undertaking.
$multi-million.
It was a $multi-million project. And, I made the wrong decision partnering. I did not have the proper legal advice on it as well. So also it's really important that you get the right legal team, because I did not have the proper guidance. And because I had never experienced a problem, I didn't know that I didn't have the right legal team. You don't have any problem.
Everything's great.
Everything's great. Yeah,
my wife, she's a lawyer, and she's just like, she's about contracts.
Right.
And she used to do my contracts. As we grew, she's like, you're beyond my scope.
Right.
You need a different lawyer. Now we got somebody that's like, they're like no joke if I need them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you really need that legal. And everybody's like, oh, contracts are not that important too. They are important.
Until they are important.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
absolutely.
I learned COVID when, we had all these contracts and cancellation. There was some people were cool with it.
Yeah.
Others, we want all our money back. I'm like, but you don't understand. We've been working 6 months for you. Just because the event didn't happen doesn't mean we didn't work.
Right. Absolutely. Right.
I learned a lot legally. And I think that's what's
so
key.
it was like, legal 101, where I was just like, I really never had any kind of experience where I even need to do anything other than review this contract.
Yeah, right.
There was no
good enough, right?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, and so so assessing who's around you, you know what I'm saying? Like assessing those people who, when times get tough, you really need to call on. And so I reevaluated all of that to make sure I have good legal guidance, to make sure change my account. I did everything. I just had to like clean house and look at everything from a different view.
Right.
And, I've been in business, it'll be 17 years this year. So to go, was that 15 years? To go 15 years and not have to do that. I finally had to like really step back and like assess my business.
Sure. Understandable.
Yeah. So I just had to step back and do an assessment. So I do want other entrepreneurs to learn from this experience because I wouldn't want anyone
Mhm.
to go through this experience. But, I think that, failures really help you learn and help you evolve and
They
change.
do, but
And
they're painful.
it was painful. I'm not gonna lie. Like I think it would have broke someone who was
Yeah.
not a strong person, to
Somebody
be
starting out.
yeah, absolutely. To be publicly attacked, to lose as much money as I did, to lose relationships. Relationships are very important. I
Huge.
tend to work with the same, vendors forever. And,
Mhm.
to lose for something that I could not control was very, very difficult.
Mhm.
I mean, for a while, I didn't even want to go out because I was
Sure.
like, are
They
they
knew, well, people
thinking?
knew who your
Yeah,
picture was
yeah,
in the paper, and
right, yeah, like,
you
yeah,
were out
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
I
And then
remember it was like you were the target because
yeah,
you
I was
were
the target.
very
I
public.
was the target. And and I was public in a good way before
Yeah.
that. And then now,
No. But
it
they're
was like
using the
I'm
same
being
photo.
canceled. Right.
They're using the
They're
same
using my
photo.
same nice press photo,
Right, the
right?
same photo for the step and repeat is in a bad way.
I'm like, now I'm being canceled. And it was just it was so difficult. Yeah, I was nervous about uh my phone stopped ringing for new business. Like for really like a year. I didn't have any new business. And, even people who I had done business with and helped them build their business was like, well, I don't know. The board is thinking. And I was like, well,
Mm.
does the board know I actually helped you? Like when you had nothing and did it for free? Like, it was things like that where I was like, I've helped so many people, but nobody was helping me. And so, yeah, so for a year, I was scared, or I was scared if I did pitch something like they were going to be like, well, she's the one from this. And so, everything you heard in that time was absolutely not true.
Right.
And, one thing about me is I do have the receipts, but it is very difficult. Like I could keep fighting that battle and keep spending money on legal, or I could just move on.
Well, that's my lawyer said the
Yeah,
same thing.
exactly.
They're like, let it go.
Yeah,
Just take the loss.
I had to take the L.
Well, we said we'll work together in the
Yeah,
future. We'll
exactly.
balance it out. But just
Exactly. And that's what I tried to tell the vendors I was working with. And I was like, I know this is really like
it's hard
terrible right now.
It's
but
hard to
you should bet on me because I'm not going to give up and I will keep pushing and I will get back on top at some point. It might take a year, it might take two, but stay with me, And so, so it was extremely
wow.
difficult. Mm-hmm.
So, once again, looking back, is there like, now that you look, let's look forward.
Okay.
So would there be red flags that you would say, no, I'm not doing that again?
Mhm.
Is there things that be like number one thing you would say it's a big red flag for you?
Well, I'm scared of partnership.
Okay.
I'm definitely scared of partnership. I mean, collaboration is different, but partnership, I don't know that I would tie my business up in a way like I did.
Gotcha.
I would not put my personal finances up for a
Mhm.
project like I did. Because I thought on the back end, it was going to come back to me. Because I was like, if we just get past this one, then I'll be whole and then I can move on. And, so I would not, I wouldn't do that again. And, and I mean, I just can't just say due diligence enough because I just did not. I did not, because afterwards everybody was like, yeah, I knew that person was, I did. And I was like, nobody wanted to say anything. Nobody, but I did not ask the questions. I just looked at what was presented and ran with it.
Interesting. So like the red flag, just, you also probably wouldn't work with anybody you've never met.
No,
before.
I would exactly. Oh yes, I should say that too. I would. Yeah, if I don't have any kind of history,
something, or somebody knows somebody.
Yeah, somebody knows. Yeah, I would definitely do that differently.
Yeah. I mean, even when we do a project, I say there's 10 people on the project, 10 vendors or 10 partners. Everything's a partnership in many ways.
Right.
I will do 9. I'll try maybe 1. Because you got to keep,
you
got to get new people in.
Yeah,
if we don't, we'll be like, all right, it's time to move on. You don't realize the new things coming up. Kind of ease one person in and see how it goes. Even an individual, I'm like, y'all have the best resumes, but is it real?
Right.
Absolutely.
You just and you know what? I even should have asked for like their financial, because I had mine and, financially it wasn't equal at all. Like I was able to front expenses and they were not. They never fronted any expense ever. And so, but again, I kept thinking, well, on the back end.
Right.
And so, I would definitely, one, make sure legal, I had a better, obviously better legal. And then, I think that everyone has to show their financials to say like, because what the project wins or loses, everybody is part of the win or part of the loss.
Right. And they're not going to admit to the loss.
Exactly.
And I think this goes too. I mean, we talk about individual partnerships, but even you deal with major companies too.
Yes.
You sometimes watch them too.
Absolutely.
I worked at Lehman Brothers. So trust me, after that, I'm like, any company
Yeah.
can go under
Any
and
company
they can
can.
tell you what they want, get that money up front, get those contracts tight because you just, some of even the startups in Silicon Valley we work with, and we're like, some are not even around anymore.
Right.
They're all into it. We're going to build this. We're going to build that. And you're like, you don't have the funds to do what an event actually takes.
You don't. Yeah. And so I don't run expenses like that anymore, because even in that, there was another client, I fronted expenses for an event, which was, typical because, it's like they want to just pay one vendor.
Sure.
So, I'm fronting the expenses, and the event was over and they never had the money. Yeah. And so I was just like, oh, this could be happening to me. Like, now I have this loss and then you can't pay. They ended up paying me, but it took them 2 years to pay me.
Wow.
And they knew that they did not have the money for this event. They knew it.
See, a lot of them don't.
A lot of them don't.
They think they do, and
they don't.
I try to be very transparent with our budgets.
Yeah.
It's like pat it a little to be on the safe side. But it's interesting when they want you early on stages, but when it starts getting into it, and if there's any overages, people get weird.
Yeah, people do get
when
worse.
you have no leverage anymore. When the event's over, you're like,
you don't.
Sorry.
Yep, you don't.
We'll get it to you.
Yep. So I don't do that anymore. I don't run expenses. I need to make sure, I'm compensated before the event starts, because like you said, after the event is over,
nothing.
So I don't do that anymore at all. I was trusting what I would do. Like, I'm not going to have you front my event, and I don't, so yeah. So
but these companies do,
They do.
It's like with 180-day turnaround.
Yeah, which is like, okay.
That'll kill a small company.
It will kill a small company. And I think that, when you're working with these big brands, a lot of times they do that, and it's like,
major.
I got to pay people. Yeah. And it's really, that's really hard. So entrepreneurship, ups, downs, all the things.
Moving on to that. So, we do learn from some of the bad things.
Yes.
So now at the other side again.
And at the other side.
So how do you define success now?
How do I define success now?
You've been successful.
I have. I've been successful.
I think so.
Yeah, I have. How I define success now is, I really want to continue to work with people who have integrity. And to me, it's not just about money. I don't lead with money, but it's about working on projects that, really mean something to me. And so, because after, the moments where I was, like I said, I helped so many people and nobody was like trying to help me, I'm very different in the projects that I select. So success is me keeping to that. And success is also, operating the way I was raised, with good work ethic and integrity, and not changing from that, even when other people are not like that. That's success. Is that I can look in the mirror and feel good about what I do.
Right.
And, I know what my intentions are. And so, if someone thinks something different, it's up to them to tell me, because I can say that was not my intention, because I always want to make something right if I can.
Right.
That's success to me, being a good person. And I feel like all the other stuff.
It's interesting. It's interesting. I've told somebody, it's like, try to be authentic. And we hear the word authentic all the time. I went to a conference. I'm like, if they said authentic one more time about events, I want to smack them. Events have to be authentic. I'm like, really? Okay, that's the whole point.
I mean, like authentic and pivot are my words. I don't want to.
Right? A pivot's I need those words.
There are many people.
The ones that use all that corporate speak, you just want to slap.
I don't want to hear those words.
Right. I don't like that. I don't.
So yes.
But it's just learning from success and that when you say authenticity, it actually to run a business, I think that is, I don't want to use the word authentic, but honest is not as easy as it seems.
It's not easy, and it's slower.
It's
slower.
Takes time. There's forces around you who don't want that.
No.
When you get these companies, some of the, I don't want to blame tech firms, but some of the small, just do it fast, good enough. I was like, they look at you like, why? You're slowing down. Why don't you give me what I want when I say can't do that?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
You know, and I think I've just learned through the year, I've learned through the years that to be honest and authentic actually is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's actually very hard.
It's hard.
A lot of people don't want honesty.
Yeah.
And, I think sometimes people think you're being mean if you're honest.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I want to tell you the truth. Like,
Yeah.
I can't sit here and write a train wreck. I'm going to tell
You're
you
right.
what it is. And you can do what you want with
Right.
it, but I'm going to tell you. But it's hard.
It's hard.
It's really
it's hard.
really
It's easy to
hard.
say yes to everything. That's
It
and
is.
everybody makes say make them feel good. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you got to be honest.
Yeah,
And it's
you
like
have to
they
be honest.
just this is
Yeah.
what it really costs.
Right.
Why?
Right.
Well, then and you have to be willing to say, then I'm going to walk away.
Yep. And I just said that. I was like, if somebody doesn't work with me because I told them the truth, then that's not the client I want to have.
Exactly.
I have to be able to tell you the truth. With the artists I work with, I'm not a yes person.
Yeah.
They know if they call me and ask me my opinion, the opinion is real and it's honest and it's with the best intentions. It's the intention of you doing something that's going to win.
Yeah.
And so it's just it's the same. If I can't be honest, and I try to level set at the beginning with clients too. Like if we're working on this major project, there's going to be some ups and downs,
Yeah.
but the one thing I'm going to do is be honest along the way. And so so if that doesn't work, I'm fine with it.
You're fine. You've already had your loss. We're like, what was it?
I lost everything. So
Right, you're like,
I'm like,
whatever,
okay, I know
what's a
I
few
know how to
bucks?
live with
Right.
nothing. So I just feel so different about life and who I spend my time with
That too.
and who I help. All of that has changed for me. So although it was devastating, I think I'm a much better person now because I'm choosing me.
Well, I wish you all the best. So is there anything you have coming up that you want to talk about?
God, actually this year has been really great for me. And, next year, I was in Cannes this year
You went?
and I activated for a client on a yacht
No.
and we
I'm
shut
gonna
it
get.
down.
I'm gonna get there sometime.
Oh yeah, we shut it down. We had performances.
I think I saw
and-
that online.
Yeah, so we were the talk
That's
of
why. I
Cannes.
think that's why. I think that's why I reached out to you. I was like, well, she's doing stuff in Cannes.
Yeah, we were the talk of Cannes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes.
And I saw some other people involved that I knew, and I saw pictures. Like, I got to reach out.
Yes. So we're back next year. So I'm super excited about that. I'm setting up, events for Oscar Week, and
Cool.
which traditionally I'll do Oscar Week and Grammy Week and
Cool.
stuff. So I'm excited about what's to come. I think that the tide is turning for me, and
Sounds like it.
yeah, and I feel like I've been in a recovery phase, and so I feel like things are moving in the right direction.
Well,
And
congratulations.
yeah. So I'm
glad.
excited. I'm excited.
I'm glad. Well, thank you for doing this. Thank you for telling your story to
No
us.
problem.
And
no
I
problem.
love meeting you and working with you. And so
Yes.
hopefully we can do more together. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Be sure to sign up for our email newsletter at markstevenagency.com and subscribe and comment on your favorite podcast app. This is creating the perfect experience where passion meets inspiration.